Welcome to another episode of Art and Stage Talk Radio. This is Heidi Hardy. Welcome, welcome. We're excited that you're here with us today. We have an awesome show, as you had the pleasure of seeing. We have Titus Presents in our studio with Charles Santos. Hello, Charles.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, welcome. And as a special treat, we have Meyer Costin.
Oh, a special treat.
Yes. Well, you're not here all the time, and we love having you. So
thank you.
Welcome. Yeah. Well, this is, I don't know that there are words because that was a fantastic intro video. So we're going to get into all the exciting things happening over at Titus.
Excellent.
Let me go ahead and thank our sponsor. I'm very excited. Park Place Volvo, as you know, is our sponsor. They're our premier sponsor here. Art and Stage Radio or Talk Radio is about sharing with the community all things art and stage and dance and all the really wonderful cultural things that we have here in North Texas. And the Dance Council of North Texas presents this wonderful show every single week. We love your feedback, so if you'd like to give us feedback, we do have a website, and I'm going to let Meyer give us a little bit of info on how to get in touch with us to give feedback.
Oh, send your comments to director@thedancecouncil.org. You can also find the contact information at www.thedancecouncil.org.
We also have a Facebook
page. I believe it's Facebook / Dance Council of North Texas.
It is, and you know, one of the things I wanted to mention to make sure that we mentioned is the interaction on Facebook and Twitter. I mean, people really enjoy a lot of the content that we get out there. So definitely. Hit us up and let us know what you think. Let's thank our sponsor. It's Park Place Volvo. You want a car that's perfect for you and your family with plenty of power, outstanding safety, state-of-the-art technology, not to mention dashing good looks. In other words, you want the total package, and believe me, no car gives it to you like a Volvo, especially when you get it at Park Place. Park Place Volvo is offering the 2017 S60 Inscription from just $389 a month. It's the ultimate luxury sports sedan with incredible handling and comfort. Oh yeah, and some of the most beautiful Swedish design this side of Stockholm. Super smooth to drive and super low on fuel consumption with a 4-cylinder turbocharged and supercharged engine, plus cool technology like smartphone-controlled engine remote start, advanced senses infotainment system, and a built-in Wi-Fi hotspot, all standard. Park Place is also including the inscription package on the S60, which ups the ante on style with 18-inch titania alloy wheels and modern wood inlays. Like I said, it's the total package, and nothing competes. It's like a trip to nothing competes like a trip to Park Place. It's unlike any other dealership you visited, where you'll be treated with respect and personal attention. How personal? Well, they have a one-touch sales process with a single associate who's with you the whole way. Forget about being handed off. And their service, people are just as on top of their game, always greeting you by name and making sure your car gets the expert treatment. All while you lounge in total luxury with gourmet coffee, free Wi-Fi, flat screen TVs, even a dedicated kids area. Yeah, I knew some of you would appreciate that. The total peace of mind and a totally perfect Volvo experience. That's Park Place. Stop by the Dallas location now or visit parkplace.com to browse current inventory. Schedule a test drive and experience Volvo performance in a dealership. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
I'll take one.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
You know, well, they change up their some of the information, and every time they do, I'm 2 inches closer to, I love Volvos. They're just beautiful. And Park Place is a wonderful, wonderful experience as well. So that Wi-Fi hotspot, I don't have one of those.
I know, I want one.
I feel like I need it. So if you do, you're looking for a new car, Park Place Volvo is the place to go. And again, you're listening to Art and Stage Talk Radio. I'm Heidi Hardy. We have some wonderful people in the studio with us today, and we're really excited about getting started. But before we get started, we're going to watch another video, and this one is Truck by Bridgman Packard Dance. Welcome back. This is Heidi Hardy. I'm the host of Art and Stage Talk Radio. You just watched an incredible video, and we have just the gentleman in the studio to help us walk us through that wonderful exhibit of dance and art. Charles, thank you for being here. You are the Executive Artistic Director for Titus Presents.
I am.
Yes. So tell us about what we just saw.
I refer to Bridgman Packard as being trippy. They're very trippy. They're an interesting performance group. It's always a duet, and we're bringing a piece called Voyeur as the main piece. What you saw was what they do in a truck, which is just unbelievably clever. They retrofitted a U-Haul truck to have these doors, and they go in and out, and they portray their virtual selves. So in the big piece that we're bringing on stage, there's a very simple set, and it's called Voyeur for obvious reasons. And you sort of see all these vignettes that are happening, and they're interacting with their virtual selves. They're in the film, and they're the two dancers that are on stage interacting with the virtual version of themselves. So it's really interesting. It's very different from anything else in this season. Very trippy, very museum installation-like.
Actually, I saw that one, and we're going to see it tonight. So, I mean, the trailer for that, it's
For
for
Voyeur?
Voyeur. Yes,
Excellent.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful, like you said, a little trippy.
Yeah.
And interesting. So I'm looking forward to talking more about that as well. Well, you know, there's you have a rich history with Titus. You've been there since 2001.
Right.
And one of the things that we like to do is get to know our guests in the studio and talk about you and your voyage or journey to where you are today
Sure.
with Titus. And I just want to make sure that everyone, Titus is Texas International Theatrical Arts Society. That's what it stands for.
Correct.
So, you know, Meyer, we're both fans of the dance and arts, and so we may just interrupt you
Sure.
if something pops up, but we definitely want to get started with about you. Tell us.
And I'll say about Titus, we sort of now have moved the name to Titus Presents because people never know what we are, if we're a dance company, or they don't really understand that we're a presenter. We bring touring companies to here. So we added the Presents to our name to hopefully make that a little bit easier to understand. I'm not sure it's working because we all say Titus. But yeah, I was a dancer. I was with a company called Shurer Dance Company that's no more. And when I was 32, it was, you know, I always said I was going to stop before I couldn't do everything I had to do. So we were in Paris, and I had produced a festival at that point in Austin and decided that I wanted to do more of that. So when we finished at the Rencontre in Paris, I said I was done and then moved over to producing. And my day job at the time, I was a computer programmer.
Okay.
Which has proved to be a useful skill in the nonprofit world. I went to New York in '95 to take over an orchestra as the development director, and I became the managing director a month later, and did that for 2 years, and it was great. And I was still producing my Texas Festival in Austin for 10 years. But it was after 2 years, we were doing concerts and everything at Lincoln Center, but I couldn't participate really artistically because it's not my thing. So I could produce them, but I couldn't make repertory suggestions. So we were growing, and I got offered the opportunity to be the producing director at Dancers Responding to AIDS at Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. And so I went over there for 2.5 years. And it was great because you have access to everybody and anybody you would ever want to have a project with. And, you know, you want to do a project with Brishnikov, here's his phone number. Here's you want to do something with B.B. Miller, here's her phone number. And so it was fun,
Yeah.
and it was interesting. But it's hard to do that work 24/7. And so I got an opportunity to be the managing director, associate producer at the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council at the World Trade Center. And so that's where I was my last 2 years in New York. And then I came here.
That's right. That's right. I know you and I had an opportunity to talk on the phone, and when you had said you were at the World Trade Center, then that's where you were on
9/11, yeah. So I'd actually had announced 4 days before that I had accepted the position in Texas, back in Texas, I should say. And I was going to finish out our season in September, transition a new person in October, and start November 1. Everything happened. Obviously, I made it out. A surreal experience in my life.
Yeah.
And ended up starting October 1. And I've been here ever since.
Yeah. Well, I'm always fascinated. I love New York City. I love Manhattan. It's just a magical place. And of course, I was born and raised on the West Coast, but I got to Texas as quick as I can.
Yeah.
Good thing.
I know.
The place to be.
I know. And so, you know, the draw for you was the position. I mean, obviously you enjoyed Texas because you were in Austin.
You know,
so
I
many years.
always knew I'd end up back in Texas. I'm born and bred Texan. I love it here. The opportunity was what brought me here. Tom Adams, who was our co-founder of Titus, was such a maverick, and they did such amazing things. And when he retired and they reached out to me, it was a perfect fit. And it happened very quickly. And I've liked it ever since. You know, it's been, Dallas is on the precipice of something very interesting with the Arts District development and the
Yes.
development of our whole cultural landscape. It's an interesting time to be here in the building of all that. And it's not hard. It's not easy. There's a lot of politics and a lot of everything. But exciting things are happening, and exciting collaborations are beginning to happen. And that's what really interests me.
So I want to cue in on something that you just said, but we're not going to do it right now because we'll bring it back up later on in the show. But the not easy part, Dallas has raised to a level of, like you said, the arts and stage and all the things that it presents. And Fort Worth is my little hometown, because when I came from California, I moved to Fort Worth. And I would imagine there's some challenges that are unique to the North Texas area and Dallas particularly. So maybe we can pick up,
Sure.
just a little bit about that political scene or maybe the...
Well, our role as a presenter is to bring interesting artists to Dallas. It's important for the growth of a city to have international and major touring companies coming here and wanting to come here. We need to nurture our own artists. We need to nurture opportunities for our local artists, but we also need to have the global artists that are touring coming here and wanting to be here. And it's an interesting time right now. Everybody wants to come here. So it's an interesting task of trying to curate a season that we find interesting, that is also complementary to the landscape, that is interesting to all the demographics. We have a very large Asian community in North Texas. We have you just throw a dart at the demographic and we have a lot of it. So we try to make sure that's happening. And part of my job is to be selective. And so, one of the big pluses of my job is that consulates from around the world invite presenters to come see their artists if they want to tour. But I will almost never present a company that I have not physically seen, because I've been burned too many times by a video. And so so they put together these trips and we go and see them. And it's fun, but it's also a chore. When you're traveling a lot, it is no longer fun.
Yeah.
It's
I've been there.
It's just a job.
Well, what are you looking at right now for next season?
Well, several things. I went to China in the fall as a part of a delegation, and I'm looking to do a lot with them. But we are in negotiations with Beijing Dance Theater. Another show that I saw in Shanghai that is very interesting, but it's super overproduced. And so they're trying to scale it back. We're having discussions about the realities of touring in North America. Everything has a price tag here. A lot of these major companies in foreign countries have state support, governmental support, and that just doesn't really exist here the way it does there. So that's a big adjustment for them. They have to be able to load in much quicker into the theater. They have to, manage their labor in a different way. I went to Israel to look at 35 companies in 5 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that at a festival or?
It's their annual dance exposure. It's brutal. And I learned from the last time that they don't schedule in any food breaks. So there are no meal breaks in that. So you just have to either skip something or pack granola bars in your pocket. But we're bringing a company from Israel that was very good. And so we're in the process of negotiating that. And and we're also bringing a company from France that we brought this past year called Hervé Kobi, an all-male troupe. They're fantastic, and this is their new work. And we'll see how it goes. One of the concerns, one of the big complications about touring international companies is visas and IRS. So INS and IRS. And this particular company, all the men are from Algeria. And though there's no problem with them touring, they've been touring for 2 years, and in fact they're on tour right now in North America. We don't know, with changing an administration and rules, and any time there's a change. So we're all sort of seeing how the process is going to change.
That's going to be really difficult. Yeah. Well, we're going to go to our quick first break. But it was when you and I had a chance to sort of a few minutes to visit and talk. It was something that came up was the changing political background that none of us are really sure how it's going to affect anything. And I think that's really important. It really intrigued me as someone who loves the arts, attends shows, loves to see new and up and coming and exciting things, and the consideration that some of those things might not be possible depending on how the landscape is. So stay tuned. We're going to be right back. We're going to talk more about Titus, and we're going to get more information about this season as well. And you're listening to Art and Stage Radio. This is Heidi Hardy, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Heidi Hardy, and you're listening to Art and Stage Talk Radio. That is a fantastic video.
You know, the cool thing about it, it's one very simple set. It's just projections that are going on it that change it so much.
I love the well, it's called voyeur for a reason. You know, the idea that you're looking into someone's life.
It's the definition of an audience member as a voyeur.
Yeah.
Now, Bridgman Packer, they're the pioneers, because you see a lot of this stuff now, but they were the original people to do this.
Yeah.
To mix dance with projections.
It's so interesting. I mean, just the idea. You know, we've had some pretty awesome guests on so far, and Danielle Giorgio was here last week. She was, and she has this amazing sort of what did you call it? Trippy. She creates these really thought-provoking pieces of art, and that's one as well. So tell us a little bit. I mean, I know you introduced it, but is there any more?
No, I think, you know, it, like I say, it is the most different thing in our season. It is, it's very trippy. It is very much the sense of an installation that you would see, the experience you would get seeing an installation in a museum. And that's in part what intrigued me about it, was that it's so completely different than anything else in the season. I think people are going to enjoy it. It's very different than what we've done.
Good. Well, that kind of circles back to what we've been talking about in the first segment was your experience and how your position helps create these seasons. So before we went to break, we were talking about some of the different countries.
Yeah. Yeah, so you know, it's always a balance. Any given season is a balance between. I mean, you're in part dictated by what's out on the market, what's touring, and the other challenge are the dates availabilities. In for us in the City Performance Hall and the Opera House. Right. So that's the first piece of the jigsaw puzzle, and then you're just trying to find who's touring that's of interest in the season, so that the season makes sense, and then putting the whole thing together. Want to have a good balance of contemporary and modern and trippy things like Bridgman Packer or last year's Ben Truffenheit that was so amazing, the Crystal Pites Kid Pivot piece, to find the balance. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm 3/4 done with the season.
Okay.
So this week is going to be a bunch of horse trading between the theaters with dates and artists and agents and seeing who's available.
I can't even imagine how difficult that is, especially when you're talking about international companies and, again, some of the potential complications.
We all just got back from APAP, which is the booking conference, the big booking conference, and it's people just don't know what it's like. You know, you start meetings sometimes at 7 a.m. and then every 30 minutes is another meeting, and in between there you're running to theaters to see showcases of companies, and this goes until 2, 3 in the morning sometimes if you're doing music as well. When Titus was dance and music, I wouldn't get home till 3 in the morning, and you just have to grin and bear it for 5 days. Yeah. Now that it's dance only, I think I had a night that went later than 1 a.m. But
what made you change just to dance?
Well, now we're in partnership with the AT&T Performing Arts Center, and I think it's very important for all of us to be curatorial, so that people, audience members, people know who you are and what you're about. And in the early days, Titus was really the only game in town for this kind of work. So it made sense for us to do them both. But now that we are in partnership with the center, and they were doing some of the same music that we were doing, I felt that it was not making sense to the public about what each of us was about. Everyone knows Titus for dance, because we are the dance presenter. So I said, let's, in the interest of curation, you guys do the music and we will do the dance. So we went from 5 and 5 to 6, 4, 7-3, and now 10-10-10 dance.
Yeah. So when you're thinking of the seasons and doing all this traveling and research and all the things that you do, you're wanting to bring those new, fresh, unique shows. How much pressure is it to bring back the,
Oh, a lot.
the shows that
Constant.
obviously, yeah. I mean, obviously, you want to bring back the big ones that get sold
Everybody,
out.
there's always
you know.
favorites. It's always a balance, and ironically, a lot of the new companies, everyone thinks they're coming from Europe, but they're really not. There's so many of the new exciting things are happening in America right now. Some of it, there are some companies that we're looking at that I'm very interested in, but we need them to develop a little bit further. So they're on the short list for the next 3 years.
Okay.
Some of them, there's some interesting work with some companies in New York that I really, really like. I just don't know that it's appropriate for our market right now. So I have to hold off and see if they want to change it. There's a balance between giving people what they want and a commitment to risk, which is what I believe presenters should have, is a commitment to pushing your audience, making them a little uncomfortable. But there's also a limit to how far you can push people with certain pieces in different parts of the country.
Well, in your 15 years of Titus, how do you think the Dallas or the North Texas audiences have evolved?
That's a great question. Yeah.
Enormously. We just had this conversation. Lily Weiss and I were talking after Betroffenheit, which is Crystal Pite's piece that we ended our season with last year. It's a piece about, Betroffenheit is a German term that speaks to when you've gone through something so traumatic that you reach a point of speechlessness. That's what Betroffenheit means. It's a German word. And this piece was a collaboration between theater and dance, and it was very sophisticated and cathartic. People cried in the audience, and it was a risk. And so we talked about, Lily was saying, 10 years ago, this would have failed in this city. The audience that's here with the work that are being done with local companies, Danielle is a good example. A lot of people, the audience have become much more sophisticated. It's a challenge. We don't have as much arts education in the school systems that we had
true.
certainly when I was a child, which was very long ago. And so a lot of that burden has fallen to the nonprofit world to make programming accessible to young audience members and teach them about supporting a nonprofit and becoming a subscriber and investing in an art form, even at the smallest level.
Yeah.
It's important. And so we looked at the evolution of the audiences, and they've come a long way, and the work that's being produced has come a long way.
So one of the reasons why I was so excited about doing this show and collaborating with the Dance Council of North Texas is because I am that consumer. I'm the non-dancer in the room. I can dance a little, not much, but we won't go there. And I think it's really important to constantly be looking for those new subscribers, those new the new audience, whether they're new because they're young and they're being exposed to more through media, or they're new because they're older like me. And I have never seen something like that before, and it just kind of excites me to know that there's something that I haven't seen before. And so, one of the things that we want to make sure that we convey is we want to make sure if somebody is watching that has never participated in a Titus production or purchased tickets, that we want them to make that. We want them to make that transition.
Leap. I mean, the best thing someone can do for any arts organization, in my opinion, is bring a friend to the theater. I mean, sure, we all love the checks to support the work we do, but the best thing is to build an audience. So if you have an extra ticket, bring someone who's never been.
Yeah.
And if you can't come, especially we say this to subscribers all the time, if you can't come, don't waste the tickets. Just give them to someone as a guest, whether it's your housekeeper or the person who cuts your hair or your neighbor or whomever. Don't waste the opportunity, because they may not ever have the opportunity to see live performance, whether it's a dance in our case or music or theater. Don't waste the ticket.
Right. Well, you said something earlier that I thought was really interesting. You had said, well, I'm looking at these different dance groups, and some of them aren't quite there.
Right.
And some of them aren't appropriate, or inappropriate for the audience that you have. When is that because of the demographics that we have here in North Texas? Is that
No, I think more. For instance, there's a company I like very much in New York right now, but they're using a lot of nudity, and I think it would be really hard.
I like nudity,
you know,
but not everybody does.
Well, and we all need to sort of grow up with it, and
Right.
it's like, it's just nudity.
Right.
They're not doing anything inappropriate. We had nudity in the Shenway piece.
I was thinking about that.
That was on the big staircase, and it was stunningly beautiful. So it's baby steps. You push a little bit, and some of these pieces have really provocative themes, not in so much a sexual sense, but it's I just have to make a judgment call if I
Right.
think this is what's going to fit in the season at this particular time, and if I really felt that the work was like Ben Truffenheit, it is a powerful piece that's tough. And I know the experiences that led to it for these two choreographers, or this choreographer and this director. But it was worth the risk because it was so good.
Well, we have another. Believe me, this show just whizzes by. It's lightning speed, and so we're going to go to another break. We're going to take a look at another Bridgman Packer video, and you're listening to Art and Stage Talk Radio. This is Heidi Hardy. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Heidi Hardy. You're watching and listening to Art and Stage Talk Radio. We bring you wonderful information about what's happening in North Texas in the art and stage community. We have Meyer Costin in the house. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Now, Meyer, you are on the board at the Dance Council, and I know you do a lot of things, wear a lot of hats with any kind of nonprofit that happens. Your primary responsibilities, you do a couple of things that I know really well. One is your marketing and publicist piece with the Dance Council, but you also do the scholarship piece. And so I'm going to give you just a, minute or two to introduce yourself to the audience.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I am a co-chair with Amanda Stone, the scholarship committee, and it is scholarship season. Our deadline is coming up
That's
February
right.
9th.
Yes.
So go to thedancecouncil.org, and under the menu item scholarships, it'll explain everything you need. We have streamlined our process this year. All we need is your headshot, your video, and then your name, address, and phone number. And please get going on that because we have lots of money to give away.
Well, we love hearing that, don't we? And we had a scholarship recipient, Amber Miller, was on the show, and she's a ballerina, delightful young lady. And I'm always interested and amazed by the dancers that work as hard as they do, and how they fit it all in. You had said, Charles, that you were a computer analyst, or
I was.
which is sort of the opposite of this. My husband's a
There's a whole creative aspect to writing code and programming that I love.
There is. Well, my husband's an IT engineer, and I could not imagine him getting on the stage and doing a little dance. But, but I guess that you have those two different sides of you, and having that background was helpful.
It helped a lot when I started producing festivals, and I created the Austin Festival Dance, which was also an AIDS benefit in Austin in 1992 for 10 years forward. It was just me. And I went to this organization called AIDS Services of Austin, and we had such a large dance community. I said, I want to produce this event for you. Well, I didn't have any staff. I was just doing it. But I had computers access to, so I was able to do a lot with very little because I had skills.
There you go.
So yeah, I'm always grateful for my time as a computer nerd.
And you're probably still very
a little bit of a
interested in
computer
it.
nerd still. Yeah.
It never really goes away.
Heidi, speaking of scholarships, Charles offers a scholarship to students at Booker T. Washington
do.
High School. He has been a big supporter of dancers there, helping promote them. And I think he's even featured some of them on the stage at Command Performance.
I have. Normally, Command Performance is our big gala, and typically it's the basic format is 5 couples from around the world. But we have, in different times, commissioned works that have featured extraordinary students from the school with someone else. So that's always been fun. And the gala is coming up. It's May 13, Command Performance. I'm not ready to release the list yet, but I can tell you that we have a dancer coming from the Royal Ballet in London,
Wonderful.
dancing with a woman from Dutch National and Momix, and a few other new and surprising things that are coming up we're still negotiating the deal, but it's going to be a great gala.
So is it and forgive me, I don't know a lot about the gala, but is it an invitation-only gala? Or do you...
The dinner is the gala. The show
Okay.
is open to the public.
Okay.
So it's called Command Performance. So there'll be about 400 people that attend the gala part. That's
Okay.
the dinner. But the show, which can hold 2,200, is open to the public. And it's a great show, especially for people that don't know dance, because nothing's too long. There's no ballet that's too long. No one gets bored because there's nothing over 10 minutes. Most everything is 5 minutes to 7 minutes. And I always call it the pyrotechnics of dance. It is, the highlights of the best.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It's
A little bit of everything,
and
really.
everyone's he holds out to the last minute and doesn't tell you who's going to be on. So everybody's waiting to hear.
I wish I were holding out. It's just
Oh,
that
come
I'm
on, play the
behind.
game.
I was, again, not envying you with all the coordinating.
I was
that you
giving
have
him
to
the
do.
benefit of the doubt that
Yeah.
he's holding out.
Well, I do want to take a moment and make sure that we thank Danielle Giorgio for her sponsorship as well. She's a member of the Dance Council, and she also sponsors our show, and we're so grateful to her. She has Warflower. The show called Warflower is coming up. I mean, that's around the corner. That's
right around the
a couple
corner.
of days. It's January 19th through the 28th at the Bathhouse Cultural Center at 8 p.m. You can get tickets for $15, which is wonderful. And you go to I'm sorry.
It's dggdancegroup.com.
That's right.
Don't ask me how I read that because it's very light and I don't have my glasses on.
Well,
I got it on Facebook, so I'm planning on going.
awesome. I'd like to also attend if it all works out. We've got a lot of things going on, but we want to thank her for her support. She's a delight. She was a delight to have here in the studio. Well, we don't have a lot of time, and one of the things that I like to do, first, I want to make sure that we give you some time to talk about that wonderful performance that we just saw.
Che Malambo.
Yes, and then you had mentioned something about all men.
Yeah,
troops.
so Che Malambo is a company that's coming from Argentina. They've been super successful in their North American tour. We have them coming. And they're our second all-male dance troupe that we're bringing. And it's just a different energy. Like Bejar was in its day, where you would have 90 men on stage and one woman. It's a whole different kind of energy. And Che Malambo is just, I call it a testosterone fest on stage. But they're really great. They're really entertaining. They're very exciting. And the other all-male troupe, of course, was Hervé Kobi that we brought last year or the year before, and they're coming back next year with their new work. So it's interesting when these all-male troops pop up, and if they're really good, to bring them, because it's a very different energy.
Well, the video itself had a tremendous amount of energy, but it had musicality to it, and then the dance as well. And so, yeah, I can imagine.
Oh, they're very exciting, and we're thrilled to have them.
Yeah, Danielle said she said that she loved working with all men. That was like one of her favorite things. They have this different perspective, and there's a lot of energy that goes on there. So when can someone see them in Dallas?
Che Malambo,
Am I putting you on the spot? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's coming up.
Okay.
It's in this season, but I don't have.
April 14th and
Thank you,
15th
Mary.
at the
There you go.
Dallas City Performance Hall.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you ask me
Maya.
about dates for next year, that's where my head's at.
Working on it. I know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you on.
No,
but-
it's fine. And then we'll close the season with Ballet BC from British Columbia. It's a really great contemporary ballet company.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, go ahead, Maya. I know you
No.
had lots of questions. No, please.
No. I was going to let Charles talk about some of the other companies coming in.
Absolutely.
What about Doug Verone's
Doug
coming up?
Verone is one of my favorite choreographers. He is he's a modern dance company in New York. I've known him a long time. We've had him here various times, and he's a very human choreographer. He uses pedestrian movement so eloquently, and like no one else I really know. He really paints the stage beautifully. I love his work. And just a quick aside about him. Several years ago, when the center was built, the CEO came to me and said, Charles, we want to have a fanfare or something when the chandelier comes down. And, they were talking about one piece of music, and I said, I think we need an American composer. I think it should be Philip Glass. And I called Philip, and he said yes. And so I was working on, it's too long of a story, but I was editing an existing piece of music that we could use until he could write something, which was, I was using the violin concertos. And I was on a plane going to New York for APAP, and I got there early, and I thought, Doug is doing a showing at his studio. I'll run up there. And he was rehearsing a piece called The Light, and the music was called The Light, and it's Philip Glass's The Light. And that's the music you hear now when the chandelier goes up and down in the opera house, was this piece of music. And I texted Doug from the studio, said, change of plans, I found the music. And I feverishly took notes, and I went into a recording studio with an engineer, and we cut this piece of music. And we liked it so much, we called Philip and said, hey, instead of making us a new piece, can we just call this a commission to edit and let us have this piece into perpetuity? And he said yes. Awesome. So that's Doug Verone is responsible for my finding that piece of music that we use for the chandelier in the opera house.
Well, awesome.
So anyway, he's very beautiful. Of course, we have Alvin Ailey, American Dance Theater, coming.
Beautiful
probably
dancers,
one of the truly great companies in the world today. And we're doing 3 shows with them in the opera house. And I'm trying to work some magic with them for the coming years. So we'll see how that plot works, but we're working on something with them.
Very popular. Very popular.
And you've
as
got
well.
Diavolo.
Diavolo is doing a new work. Who is they just premiered it in New York. It's called Passengers. I saw it in not in New York, in L.A. I saw it in L.A. It's fantastic. They're so different because they use these giant sets, and it's a mixture of gymnastics and dance. And Jacques Heim is just so creative. He does a terrific student matinee, because they really explain it all. And then they do a brutal, and I mean brutal, audition. They will do an audition here for new dancers. They find dancers every time they do an audition here. And it is the most brutal thing I've ever seen. They do a hard dance audition, and then it's the really hard strength stuff.
What can you give us an example?
Well, I mean, they'll weed everybody out through the dance, and then they're going to make you do walking handstands across the long studios at Booker T and back. They'll have to do handstand push-ups. They'll have to do sit-ups until they can't do them anymore. They have to do push-ups until they can't do them anymore. And all of this is at the end of a long audition, to see what their stamina is like, because it's a very physical company. So I sit there with a Diet Coke and a donut, and I just watch.
You're so mean. You're so mean.
Well, that's kind of a good seat in the house to have. I know the dance community is very competitive, and something that we bring up almost every time we have a dancer is the, I guess the long work and passion and love for it. And it sounds like, I mean, you've been doing this for 15 years at Titus, and you seem to have the same passion, or I didn't know you 15 years ago, but you have a lot of spark and passion about what you do. And
I
how do
love
you
my
keep
job.
that? I mean, what is it that
I love my
drives
job.
that?
I love the art form. I love creating cultural collaborations, seeing what's possible. The gathering, the big AIDS benefit that we did with 15 arts groups and 250 performers was a dream. It was a magical working it was a lot of work. But it was amazing to see all these people collaborating, and that's the stuff that I'm really interested in now. I love presenting, and we will, I want to keep it interesting, but we're looking more and more now at what are the projects that we can do that bring arts groups together. I think the future for the nonprofit world is collaboration and sharing of resources, and this is something that everyone has got to realize. Everyone has been so concerned about their piece of the pie that people are failing. And the minute you start sharing resources, things become a little bit more manageable financially. People's audiences expand because you're exposed to new people. It's the way we're going to function. So
I love that you brought up the future, because that really is the wrap of the conversations for us is, what's in the future. And, Meyer, you brought up the evolution of the audience that's here in Dallas. So what is that? I mean, are we pushing that envelope even more? And
I hope so.
To wrap that in, I know we talked a little bit about the political landscape, and what do you see?
Well, it's complicated. There's a lot of things going on. I think that we have to look at the bigger picture of our cultural landscape and where we're headed. I don't think supporting a large group doesn't mean that you're not supporting the smaller group. I think we have to make sure that all of it happens. All of it is important. It's important that the AT&T Performing Arts Center continues and is robust. It's important that Dallas Summer Musicals continues and is robust. It's important that the smaller theater groups and dance companies continue and are robust. We want to create an environment where artists that we train and live and raise here, stay here. And that is the biggest problem that we've had, I think, in this city, is that we nurture these artists and then they go away. And part of keeping them here is keeping a really vibrant cultural landscape. And that means not only supporting the local groups and the larger groups, but creating an environment where important artists want to come here and create collaborative projects. And it's an all-in kind of project. So as we work through our budgets and whatnot, we have to see the bigger picture and see that a rising sea, all boats float with a rising sea. So we have to make that happen. I always point back to the Opera House in Sydney, Australia, and it went through terrible times. But you look at, no one sees anything with Australia that doesn't show that Opera House and what it has done for the landscape as a whole over there. So it's important that we support as much as we can, and that we not infight as much as we can.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a utopian society that will never fully happen, but we can certainly work towards it.
Something that Charles hasn't mentioned is a lot of the companies that come in will provide master classes.
Oh, yeah.
At the schools, at different schools. And I remember, was it last year that you did Big Bar?
We've done 3 of them. We require that all the touring companies do a master class for free.
That's fantastic.
To the public. And we always advertise it through the Dance Council, which is the best way to reach out. And we're about to do a thing with the Actors Fund during the IABD conference, the Black Dance Conference. We're going to have an evening at the Winspear in Hammond Hall, telling dancers what's out there for them in terms of help from the Actors Fund and career transitions and scholarships, and the same thing for the acting community on 2 consecutive days later this month. But yeah, we do a masterclass with everybody, and we did this thing called Big Bar or Mega Bar. And we did a ballet class on the grounds in front of the Opera House for about 150 people from 3 years old to 90, and of all levels. And it was amazingly fun. People loved it. Everyone wanted to dance in the reflecting pond. We did a tango class with Estampas Porteñas, which was a lot of fun. And then we did a second ballet class out there. So we're going to try to do those more frequently, but it's a lot of work to do these outdoor classes.
Sure, absolutely.
And I noticed there was a
Coordination.
picture of you doing a lift.
Oh yeah, there was.
And how did you feel a couple of days later?
I know how to lift.
Still got it
I was
going.
fine. Don't ask me to do a deep plie, but I can lift.
Well, we really appreciate you being here, and you know, I guess you had mentioned collaboration and support within our community and our organizations, and I couldn't agree more. Our goal is to spread the word and to bring in those people on the fence that, you know, maybe haven't tried something new and are looking to do it. I would encourage anyone in that category to take a look at Titus, to go to the AT&T Performing Arts website and see
Or
what
the Titus website,
Or the
titus.org. TITAS.org,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, thank you. And then you guys have social media as well. Do you
We
wanna give a
do.
plug
We're
for-
on Facebook. You know, I'm on Twitter. I'm not really good at Twitter, but I'm good at Facebook. Just
I think
you
that's
know,
our
I would
generation.
encourage everybody just to pick a show, whether it's Titus. Of course, I want them to come to ours, but whether it's Danielle's show that's coming up or another local group, just support local art.
Thank you for being here. Thank you so
No, it's my
much.
pleasure.
It's been a lot of fun. Hopefully you'll come back
Absolutely.
and talk more about the next season and all the
Absolutely.
things that are going on. Maya, what's happening next week? We have
We have a musician, and I'm
absolutely.
sorry.
No,
I don't
that's
have it
okay.
in front of me.
That's okay. I meant to send you a note, but we'll
You're
make sure.
so mean.
I'm sorry. Well, you are fantastic at getting that out on Wednesdays. It's always out on our Facebook and our social media, and who's coming up next. So they're just doing a wonderful job of getting a wonderful guest on the show, and so stay tuned and make sure that you stay plugged into us. Thank you to all our sponsors, and we will be back next week at 6 p.m. You're listening to Art and Stage Talk Radio, and thank you. Have a wonderful week.